Hi everyone, Tsukento here, and this is the start of the Q&A I said I was gonna make about 2 years ago. But details like that aren't important. No fancy intro or any of that nonsense like other people seem to do these days. Let's just get right to the part you guys want to hear. Alright, we got 3 questions from Angry John. The first one is, what do you think of E3 this year? Well, I have mixed feelings about this year's E3. Microsoft's press conference absolutely sucked for me. Before I get into the Connect, I have to point out that I really don't care about Halo, Gears of War, or Call of Duty. So those 3 went right into my who gives a shit pile. Fable never really caught my interest too long. I played through the first and it was okay, and I have no desire to finish Fable 2. I'm more or less really not caring about what'll be in Fable 3. Now the Connect. Oh boy. Talk about a good way to push an installed fanbase away by claiming you know what they want and copying just about everything the Wii's done these past few years. Yeah, the movie playing options are pretty neat, I'll give them that. But other than that, I see absolutely no reason for me to drop $150 for a full body waggle machine. I have no interest in playing whatever gimmick developers want to pump out on it. Did we suddenly forget how painful it was to look through the Wii's library and see what was basically treasures surrounded by shit? Call it what you like. The way how I see it, everyone's just trying to jump on the motion control bandwagon, and I can tell you, the end results will not be pretty. Now, Nintendo completely blew me away. They did so horribly 2 years ago when they said they had a slew of games waiting for us and only unveiled Animal Crossing and Wii Music. The perfect analogy for me to explain how all of this is going would be 2 kids in a classroom doing an exam. You have the dumb asses trying to copy the smart kids' answers and the smart kids onto them. So the smart kid puts in all the wrong answers on his paper, and once the idiots turn theirs in after copying him, the smart kid quickly puts in the right answers right before he turns his paper in. I'm actually looking forward to dusting off my Wii now, and I am indeed looking forward to the 3DS. Anyone complaining that there are too many DSs on the market obviously hasn't done their homework to know that Nintendo, more often than not, has always made a ton of different variations of their handhelds as well as successors close together. Now, Sony's conference just bored me. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't very interesting, save for the surprise twisted metal. That's all I have to say, really. Oh, and this 3D nonsense? Yeah, cut it out. Question number 2. Are you planning on finishing your Nintendo mistakes video? Sometime in the future, maybe. I'd have to redo the whole thing because some of my choices were somewhat reflected on what was going on 2 years ago and are kinda irrelevant now. In the future, maybe, but for now, I've gotta work on all the other shit that I have planned before I start tasking myself with too many things. His last question is, what do you think of 2010 so far? Without getting too into this one, could be better. It's not bad. I mean, it's alright. Chibi Fighter asks, what are the worst things in the anime community in your opinion, and are you interested in the Scott Pilgrim video game? The answer to the first question is, too many fucking idiots of every kind. You have your weeaboos who think everything is better in Japanese and that to dub anime would be committing a horrible sin. Then you have the dub crowds who act like their version of a dub is the best thing ever and that their shit doesn't stink. And then you have the shippers, both hetero and homo, and fuck it, I'm not naming them all. Anime just attracts a lot of stupid people. Oh, and yes, I am looking forward to the Scott Pilgrim game. However, I don't like the fact that there is 0 online play. What kind of bullshit is that? Why are game developers starting to do this? I had the same problem with Dragon Quest IX. Some of us don't actually have friends that live right by us to play these games with. Hell, we don't even have friends that are interested in these games. Yeah, I get Dragon Quest is a big title in Japan and everyone has it there. But you know what? The same doesn't apply everywhere else. You lose out on experiences like that, and I seriously hope an online mode is patched into the game. Otherwise, I really have to reconsider where my $10 would be better spent on. Fighterwolf Neon writes in with, do you watch any mech anime? And if yes, which ones? Honestly, I haven't watched many mecha anime lately. I'd say the last ones I saw that I enjoyed were G Gundam, Eureka 7, and Gurren Lagann. Before that, I was getting turned off by how soap opera-ish mecha anime were getting. I fucking blame Gundam Seed for that one. His second question is, have you ever seen Golden Boy? Yes. Yes, I have. And it's not only funny as hell, but the dubbing has that so bad it's hilariously good sound to it that somehow surprisingly matches with what's going on screen. It's one of the funniest miniseries I've ever seen.
Oh, ooh, what a soft, warm hand. If that hand were to touch me in my most sensitive spots, I'd lose control of my precious bodily fluids. Oh, if only my hand was my penis!
DCF363 asks, what are your feelings about the Kingdom Hearts games? Ah, Kingdom Hearts. I loved the first game. It had a certain charm to it. Then the second game came out. Somehow it became a Press X Twin type of button masher with little challenge, an unmemorable plot, and the beginning of what would be the most retardedly ass-backwards storytelling I've ever seen for character paths. Just how many times is the series going to go back and reinvent new characters who just so happen to be within Organization 13 that nobody heard or mentioned of until a certain game demanded it? It was bad enough with all the "I'm Ansem."
No, you're not. I'm Ansem.
You're all liars. I'm the real Ansem.
Bullshit that went on. Just release Kingdom Hearts 3 and be done with the series. I mean, good God! Enough with the prequels, sequels to prequels, and spin-offs. This shit's almost as bad as Final Fantasy VII. He also asks, what are your thoughts about Dragon Ball Z Kai? It's a hell of an experience. This is the first time where not only am I getting to see the series as it premieres on Japanese TV, but the first time I'm actually excited about watching the English dub. Anyone who knows me can tell you I've never been a fan of either English dub of Dragon Ball Z, and I've waited forever for a proper dub of the series in English. This is finally it. After 15 years of demand. As for the show itself, I'm loving the fact that the filler is getting shit canned. So it's quickened the pace of the series and no longer becomes drawn out series of staring, explosions, settling, and recycled frames of animation. Now mind you, it does have its flaws where the redrawn scenes look cheap, the music isn't as grand or as fitting as Shunsuke Kikuchi's score, and some of the non-dead Japanese cast were replaced. But you know what? I'm still enjoying it for what it is. It's still the same series I grew up watching as a kid, from a new perspective. S. Shinra wants to know what my thoughts are on the new Sonic voice cast. Another thing I never really cared for that swarms of people seem to swear by was Sega's original cast of English voice actors for the Sonic series. Yeah, I know, 4Kids had a massive amount of awful voices for Sonic X and the later games. But you know what? So did Sega. Their cast was mostly made up of amateur voice actors who couldn't really act. Now, are the voice actors to blame, or were the voice directors the ones responsible? I don't know. All I know is that I didn't like either one side of the fence, and just set Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Unleashed to Japanese audio. At least Sonic's English makes up for it, and Dr. Eggman is voiced by Tao fucking Pai Pai's Japanese voice actor. Now, as for the new set of voices, I really don't know what to make of it, and honestly, it's not really a big issue for me. I will give Sega at least props for acknowledging all types of complaints on the field in regards to the Sonic series and are willing to address these issues. Wow, that's actually kinda hard to say these days. Sega listening to its fanbase? Hey Sega, I'd really like Shenmue 3, a new Panzer Dragoon, Jet Set Radio, and Phantasy Star Online game. Oh, and a console port of Choo Choo Rocket. Make it happen. Super Rayman 3 asks, what are your thoughts on Dreamcast games being available on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade? I think it's a brilliant move by Sega, and it shows how they're becoming a company that actually listens to its audience. It gives old-time Dreamcast fans a chance to replay these games on their newer machines with up visuals and possible online activity, depending on what'll be released. And it gives people who've never had the chance to play a Dreamcast the ability to find out what all the fuss has been about. Now all we need are the third-party developers to follow suit. We've already gotten a couple of games like Rez, Triggerheart Excelica, Soul Calibur, and Ikaruga. Capcom's also given us Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is built off the Dreamcast version, and they're working on bringing us Street Fighter 3, which is good and all, but I know I'm not alone when asking, how about the Power Stone series? He also asks, do you think Dreamcast games being available on PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade will affect the future of the Shenmue saga? Unfortunately, I don't see the Shenmue series ever being revived. Sega knows people want it, but the reality of it is that it's just not possible unless someone delivered several dump trucks full of money at Sega's door and guaranteed them no issues with releasing future titles. While people say, obviously the fans are demanding it, they seem to forget that Shenmue's fanbase is actually smaller than they'd like to believe it is. Shenmue sold only 1 million copies worldwide within its lifetime. That's a very small amount compared to other games, including from the Dreamcast's library. It's been said that in order to break even on the costs of development, every single Dreamcast owner worldwide would have had to purchase 2 copies of Shenmue. Obviously, that didn't happen. They later took a bigger risk by releasing Shenmue 2, and Sega of America took this a step further by releasing Shenmue 2 exclusively for the Xbox in North America and canceling the Sega Dreamcast release here. Now some of you might think that's not so bad, but think back to 2001. At this time, the Xbox was a newcomer with Microsoft entering console gaming for the first time. This was at the time when Japanese companies were the only ones trusted with making gaming consoles. No one believed an American company could deliver solid gaming based off of what Atari's later systems, the CDI, and even the 3DO had to offer. So not only was Shenmue already a niche game series, but it was available on a console no one had hoped for at first. This is why a lot of Sega's early Xbox titles, while fantastic, ended up selling like crap. So at this point, there's really no hope for Shenmue ever continuing unless someone can provide Sega with all the money in the world, as it's a game series that helped push them closer to bankruptcy during the Dreamcast era. Unfortunately, we will never see Ryo Hazuki escape from that cave at the end of Shenmue 2, and we will never see him avenge his father's death. As negative as it sounds, it's really the cold hard truth. But at the very least, the closest thing around that Sega has to offer these days is the Yakuza series. Thankfully, it's at least seen some success with the release of the third title, which has guaranteed the release of the fourth title over in the Western markets. So if you have a PlayStation 2 and a PlayStation 3, I highly recommend checking that series out if you're dying for something similar to Shenmue. Honestly speaking, it's everything Shenmue desired to be and then some. And that'll do it for this video. If I haven't touched up on a question you may have sent me, don't worry, I'll be sure to answer them in the next Q&A video along with any other questions you guys might have for me. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out on my channel, as next month is Dreamcast month.